Greetings. Assalamu alaikum. In our Quranic reflections, we reached Surah to Ayah 106. And this ayah is so much used by some who think that there are abrogations in the Noble Quran, that the words of Allah were deleted. Deleted, uh, no need to follow, deleted even, from the writings of the Quran, deleted anyway. And this is what we're going to talk about today. But before we enter into this topic, because it's so sensitive, I need to put some basics, rules for this discussion. I want to ask you a question. Let's start with this question first. When somebody comes to correct your false information that you've been lived through birth, since you are born and since you came to this life, you are raised to think and believe in a certain way. And somebody comes with better information trying to correct you, they find you very stubborn, insisting on the mistakes you are making, on the brainwashing that you received from those who teach you and you receive from them. So the question is here, are you willing now to yield, to slow down, to ease off a little bit from your stubborn heart and stubborn soul and support the Quran in the same powerful manner that you support your false ways? Are you willing to support the Quran for a change? Or you are still insisting on supporting man-made stuff and teaching? It's up to you. So I hope you answer this. I cannot hear you or reach you to know your answer. So the least I can do, I'll leave it in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who can hear all things. And He will know your answer, even if you keep it in your heart. He knows everything. Very well. Now, the first two rules I would like to put, or the first rules I would like to put for this discussion, to reach a positive end for this discussion, not a negative one, as usual. Every time we try to debate, to correct mistakes, Muslims are making, or non-Muslims, the same result. Hostility, animosity, stubborn hearts, evil reactions, you name it. Expect to have it. In Surah number 39 and Ayah 18, let's read this together from the words of Allah, the Noble Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. الذين يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. Those who hear all kinds of speeches and follow only the best. أولئك الذين هداهم الله وأولئك هم أولو الألباب. Those who have received guidance from Allah and those who have intelligence, good reaction. They use this and they use their hearts well, not in an evil way, according to the evil temptations. And this is, what we keep, asking Allah in every prayer in Surah Al-Fatiha, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. And I explained this. This is in Surah Al-Baqarah as well. And I'm saying Surah Al-Baqarah explains Surah Al-Fatiha so far in 106 ayahs. So far, explaining Surah Al-Fatiha. And this even in 39, Surah 39, Ayah 18, speaking about اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Allah says, those who listen to all kinds of speeches and follow only the best, those have received guidance. Allah gave him guidance, already gave him guidance, already received. And those who have brains and hearts, using them well. And we spoke about this before. If any imam, Satan advocate, from some of those imams are Satan advocates, who will tell you, how do you know that not shaitan is playing you with you games? Tell him, you are a shaitan advocate. That's what you want me to think. Because Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, my imam and prophet, he told me in a hadith, احذروا قلب المؤمن فإنه دليله. Be warned about the heart of the true believers, because it's their best guide. So my heart guides me as a believer. So now, again, the rule number one, we have to listen to all kinds of speeches and follow only the best, as Allah is ordering us in Surah 39, Ayah 18. Go and read it for yourself. Now in Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah 2, Ayah 7. Now we understand those who hear all kinds of speeches and follow only the best. Those, Allah says, I gave him guidance. Receive guidance directly from Allah. Now let's look at the negative, those negative among us Muslims. In Surah 2, Ayah number 7. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة ولهم عذاب عظيم. Allah sealed their hearts, their ears, and their eyesight, fogness, and they will receive great torture in hell. So, decide where you want to be. Are you from those who listen to all kinds of speeches and use your heart and brain and say, oh Allah, I received your guidance and I accept this because it makes logic, sense, makes a lot of sense? Or you are from those that Allah sealed their hearts, their ears, and their eyesight? You are worse than the world's. And Allah says in Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah number 2, Ayah 18, صم بكم عمي فهم لا يرجعون. They are deaf, blind, and mute, and they will never return. And in another ayah, Allah explained in Surah Al-An'am that they are worse than the animals, dumb animals, even worse. They have hearts, they do not understand. They have ears, they do not hear. They have eyes, but they cannot see. And Allah says they are worse than the dumb animals. So we need to know today, after we give you the proofs, discussing this sensitive issue, what category you fall in. I hope you fall in the first category, that you receive guidance from Allah that opens your heart, your eyes, your ears, and your brain. Alright, so as I said, we are in Surah 106, Surah 2, Ayah 106. And like I said, this is a very sensitive issue. It speaks about the abrogations, cancellations in the Qur'an. Ayahs, words from Allah, cancelled. Maybe 50% of the Qur'an is cancelled in some evil eyes among the Muslims. If we are making a mistake, we need to correct. If not, then business as usual. We will discuss this issue, abrogations in the Noble Quran. If this is a mistake, you have to stop it. You have to stop doing this. If it's not a mistake and we don't make any sense in our discussion today, in this video, if I don't make any sense, hey, it's business as usual. Just continue doing what you're doing. So before we explain Ayah 106 in Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah number 2, 106, let us talk about something else. Let us talk about a war, a real serious war from Muslims against Allah and Qur'an. Muslims have a war against Allah and Qur'an. in all of their sects. Don't jump into conclusions saying this sect or that sect. No, all the sects, they have a war against Allah and Quran. And I posted long time back a sign saying, coming soon. Do Muslims have a war against Allah? Do Muslims have a war against Quran? Do Muslims have a war against Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam? And then I decided not to do it. But here's an example why I asked that question, and I was about to discuss it. This is the debate showing a war Muslims are having against Allah, Quran, and Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Okay. So after we show this war against Allah and Quran, if you are among those who have a war against Allah and Quran, then you have the following choices. You have the following choices. You can choose whatever you wish. Number one, you may continue your war against Allah. Simple. Don't even listen. You know, you hear this video, or maybe the next, don't give any attention. Throw it behind your back as if it never happened. Continue your war against Allah and Quran. You have a war against Allah and Quran. And this is what we're going to prove in this message. Alright, second, you may stop after we bring the proofs, because Allah told us and ordered us, Hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqeen, bring your proofs if you are speaking the truth. So look at our proofs. They make sense, you have to stop your war. They don't make sense, as I said, business as usual. Continue on your way. Doesn't matter whether it's false or right. Option number three, you may argue and debate ignorantly, just for argument's sake, to waste time. You don't want to listen. You just don't want to listen. Even if we are using the words of Allah, the Noble Quran, you don't want to listen. In Surah Al-Hadid, Allah says, أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبَهُم لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. Isn't it time for those who say they are believers, mu'min, to have fear when the words of Allah are recited properly, with good interpretation? Isn't it time yet? Now, option number four, you may join those of us who are trying to stop this war. You can join us. Fight on behalf of the message, on behalf of Quran, for the sake of Allah, to stop this war Muslims are making. It's up to you. You have four options. Choose. I hope you choose well. Alright. Now, how about, others who had wars against Allah and Quran? Those who had wars, they never forgot and they never forget. Islam of Muhammad, the nation of, against the nation of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, started from the very first minute, first hour, first day, ever. Also, the war never stopped. This war never stopped since it started, from the very first day. Alright, what I'm talking about. First of all, in Mecca, we had idol worshippers, mushrik. And from the first minute Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam received the message in Ghar Hira and went back to Mecca to tell his people, relay the message, the mushrik started a miserable war against Allah, Quran, and Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Also the Jews in the Arabian Peninsula. And since that day, this war never stopped. It continues even today, after 38 years today. And And those who had a war with Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam and the message of Allah and kafir in the eyes of Allah, they never forgot, and they will never forget since. So yes, those died 1400 years back, but their descendants, some of their descendants, still have a war against Allah and Qur'an even today. And against Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, our Imam and Prophet. Persia had a war against Allah and Quran and Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam back then, 1438 years back. They never forgot, and they will never forget. Persia was one of the great empires. Back then, we had two major empires, Rome and Persia. And those Persians and their descendants, until today, they never forgot. They never forget. They have a war against Allah, Quran, and Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Yeah, we hear some of them, they say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. They don't mean it. They don't mean Muhammad. They start with Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, but they mean Ali Muhammad, Ali, Fatima, Al-Hasan, and Al-Hussein. If they make Ali Allah, what do you expect? Now, we go to Rome. Rome also had a war. See, Persia, the war started when Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam sent a message. He said that he's a messenger from Allah, and he is calling Persian king to come to the way and the true path of the Lord and worship. The Persian king sent a message to the king of Sheba, who's closer to Mecca, and he said to him, he was working under the Persian king. He told him, bring me the head of this so-called Muhammad on a silver plate. He wanted to cut the neck of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And then after the death of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, Khalid ibn al-Walid started a war against those enemies of Allah, Quran, and Muhammad back then. But their descendants, even today in Persia, they have a huge war against Allah, Quran, and the Prophet. Alright. Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam sent a message to the Byzantine ruler, Heraclius, and told them, I'm a prophet from Allah. Accept the message. Rome sent 100,000 Roman soldiers through the Syrian province into the borders of the Arabian Peninsula at Tabuk, a city called Tabuk. And Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam sent an army. Against the 100,000, he sent 20,000 only. Because this is Iman. They knew from previous experience in Badr and Uhud and the battles with the mushrik that Allah will never let them down and they will be victorious. 20,000, more than enough for an army 5 times as much from the Romans. And when the Romans heard that 20,000 are coming against them, they fled, took off like cowards. Since the Byzantine time, Rome of all days, until today, they had a war that never ends. Rome never forgot and never forget. Their descendants today, they call themselves Christians. They have a war against Islam since. Let's go to Surah 2, Ayah 106 again. Let's read together. And this is what, some Muslims, sad example, use as a very strong proof, because they know those believers among us, when you say Quran, we are paralyzed. We can't say nothing. We just sit and listen. Because, we say like, what Allah told us to say, آمنا به كل من عند ربنا. We believe all of it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Full stop. This is the end of discussion. So they use the Quran to shut us up. But we are smart today. Not like 1,000 years back. Those people were naive and they can believe in anything. 1,000 years back, the people were very, very naive. I'm not talking about the first 100 years, I'm talking about the next 1,300 years after the Prophet. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Surah 2, Ayah 106. ما ننسخ من آية أو ننسها نأتي بخير منها أو مثلها. ألم تعلم أن الله على كل شيء قدير. This is the strongest proof. Those who speak about cancellations in the Quran, abrogations, they use this ayah as a support to their, I may call it satanic claim. Shaitani. It's from shaitan. This claim is from shaitan, not from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this is what we're going to discuss. At this point, don't make any decisions. You just listen to the proofs we are going to put, and then you're convinced, great. You are not convinced, business as usual. It's just a discussion and a matter of difference between what you think and what we think. And it's an in-house debate. We shouldn't be enemies. We should keep to be brothers for the sake of Allah, who made us so. And He told us that we were enemies. He harmonized between our hearts and we became brothers under Him. Very well. Now, I think, I cannot, bring, the proofs right now in this video because of the time allowed for recording. You learn by now I'm using simple instruments. But let me say one more thing. Those who speak about abrogation, they speak with such confidence. I don't know where the hell they bring it from. We don't have ijma'. It's not the whole ummah, the whole nation of Muslims in all different sects. They agree with you that there are abrogations in the Noble Quran. Even among the alim, the scholars, way back in history, 1,000 years back, 1,200 years back, alim, since then they were talking against it. You speak as if everybody agrees with you that there are abrogations. No, this is a debate, in-house debate, between those who agree and those who don't. You have to understand this. Otherwise, we can reach nowhere with you. If you do not understand this fact, then you're hopeless. So some so-called alims, they say there are abrogations, cancellations in the words of Allah. They cancel 50%. And other, more up here, alims, they say no abrogations in the Noble Quran. So we need to understand now, who should we follow? Who should we believe? Those who say abrogations, or those who say this is impossible, indecent, shameful, haram, to play such a foolish game with the words or against Allah and His book. Very well. So those who speak, about abrogation with such confidence, they need to ease off, lay back, relax, come to learn, and if we make sense, they need to correct their mistakes and stop their war against Allah and the Noble Quran. let's continue this debate next time. It's very sensitive. We need to take our time explaining. Alright, so this is the first part. We meet today, we meet again inshallah with a different part, the second part of this discussion, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.